Topic is, what is real atonement? What is prayashchitta? What does the term prayashchitta mean? The real atonement. Srila Prabhupada, taking clue from the discussion between Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam, gives here the essence of that discussion. Excuse me. Real atonement means coming to real knowledge that there is no use in again doing sinful activities and doing some atonement to escape the reactions. Just lose the attraction to do sinful activities. That's the best thing. So, coming to real knowledge. Why? Because a sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity. What do you mean by this? A sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity because prayaschitta works. It's a Vedic process. Oh, you did this sin, you perform this particular atonement, you will escape the reactions. It's a valid, it works. So then how is Prabhupada here saying a sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity? What is the understanding here? Does that mean atonement does not work? Is a sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity? So the actual understanding of the statement is a sinful activity and a sinful reaction, these two are different. There is, every activity has some reaction. A sinful activity gives a rise to certain sinful reactions. So in the Vedic scriptures and in various religious traditions, there is a way that you perform certain atonement for a certain kind of sin. So then you are absolved of those sinful reactions. But you are not absolved of the inclination. You are not, the inclination to perform the sinful activity is not removed from your heart. But you can be absolved of the sinful reactions. It is an authorized process. But why we don't accept it is because it's not complete. Since it's an incomplete process, we reject it. However, it has its own, what you call a subjective place. It works, but it does not work in the sense of all what we are all saying, that removing the inclination, cleaning the mind completely, changing the disposition of the heart, and taking away a desire to again perform those sinful action. That is not accomplished. That is what Shukadeva Goswami is saying. That is only accomplished by practicing devotional service and in the following the path of the Mahajanas, in the previous devotees, and taking to devotional service. That's why he rejects karma and jnana. In the same line, Srila Prabhupada is saying, stating that a sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity. It's not like a counteraction because the inclination is remaining. You are only counteracting the reactions. And that's why Prabhupada is saying the real prayaschitta, the real atonement is the awakening of our dormant Krishna consciousness. And coming to the question that Mother Preeti raised, even we hear about Ekadashi and all these things like that. Yes, on a certain level, practicing Ekadashi can have those effects. Like the same activity, bhakti, for some people can act as a prayaschitta, can act as a pious activity. But for us, if we have the right attitude, it can act as a pure devotional activity. It depends on the attitude, how you use it. You can say, for example, you can take a golden, like a golden rod to actually take away dust, or you can do something more precious with it. So it's not just about the object, like it's, you can take a diamond and you can use it like a paperweight, but it's like really a insult to the diamond to use it as a paperweight. So similarly, the Ekadashi can actually offer you the benefits of Ashwamedha Yagya, can offer you the can relieve you of sinful activities. But is that what Ekadashi is meant for? No, it is Bhakti Janani. It can actually give the ultimate solution, that is a devotional service. It can create, produce devotion in our hearts. So that is why sometimes Vedic scriptures encourage you, oh, if you perform Ekadashi, you will overcome the sinful reactions. You will get the benefits of performing Ashwamedha Yagya. So someone who is in that consciousness will pick that up because that's what they are attracted to. They will start practicing Ekadashi so sincerely. In the course of that, if they come across a devotee, then there is a chance they can go to the next level of practicing actually devotional service. That's why, because somebody is on a lower standard of motivation, still the Vedic scriptures connect devotional service to that, so that they can, through that lower motivation, they can climb the ladder and come to the higher platform of devotional service. That is why we hear different kinds of benefits for Ekadashi. Does that answer your question, Madhuri? Yes. So, in essence, the whole conversation is, if something does not change the inclination of your heart, then that is not worthy enough. So, then that cannot be considered as a prayashchita, and only Krishna consciousness can cause transformation of heart, and that is the only real atonement. So, thank you for all the contributions. And how to come to that real knowledge? Because the first line, if you see on the top, is real atonement means coming to real knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport how to come to real knowledge. He says real atonement involves coming to real knowledge, and for this there is a standard process. He says there is a standard process to come to awaken knowledge. And Srila Shukadeva Goswami says there are two types. One is jnana and one is bhakti. So Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain how such a methodical life is called as tapasya. So, what and all one needs to do? One needs to practice austerity, celibacy, control the mind, control the senses, give up possessions in charity. Excuse me. By being truthful, by keeping clean, by practicing yoga asanas. So, by all this, also one can come to some amount of knowledge. But Srila Prabhupada says, however, if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a pure devotee, he can easily surpass all the practices for controlling mind by the mystic yoga process. Rather, just by following the four regulative principles and engaging in the devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee, the person can achieve the same goal in a much more easier and a sustainable way. And this is the conclusion that devotional service is the real path of awakening endowment, is the real prashchita, and it actually awakens our dormant Krishna consciousness. And in the course of this particular discussion, there were many analogies used. One is the elephant bathing. Can anyone say what does that analogy mean? Why was it used? What was it used to explain?
So the elephant bathing is so he bathes in the river and cleans his body, but then he comes up and he dusts himself with dirt.
Okay.
So in the same way that we are similarly, I guess, the Christian idea, or even chanting, right? We're chanting, we're doing all the regulatory principles, we're following everything. A Christian is going, to the priest to get to confess his sins, but then we're still doing all the things that go against. Like he talks about the next Saturday, they have to do it again because they've not changed their attitude. So similarly, you were talking about changing your how did you put it? Your inclination, right, for doing it. So I guess that's kind of what they're talking about with the elephant.
Perfect. So how the elephant bathes but again sprays dust. Similarly, we attempt to clean ourselves but again pollute ourselves by engaging in sinful activities. Thank you. And if somebody read the verse 1, you also would have come across this thief and punishment, the analogy that Parikshit Maharaj gives. So does anyone understand? Or, sorry, if anyone would like to say, what is the analogy? How is it used? Yes, Agapi.
Yeah, so the analogy first he says that one who learns by hearing or seeing is more intelligent than one who has to be punished. So if somebody hears that the law is not to steal, that's the most intelligent. If somebody sees somebody stealing and getting caught and punished, that's the second best. Then there's one who hears and sees, but still steals, then they get punished. And then after they atone and have their go to jail, then they stop stealing. That's the third level. And then finally, there's the rascals who go through all that and still continue to steal.
Yeah, thank you. It was perfectly put. And it actually connects to the same topic that in spite of going through punishment or a kind of an atonement of going to jail, still the person is not transformed. So, what is the use of that punishment? And the third, confessions are the same topic. Like people may confess, but again end up doing the same activities for which they confessed. So, what is the use of that confession? And these are the three analogies used to emphasize the same topic. And then the fourth analogy is the hygienic process. That hygienic process is if a person practices a proper hygiene in terms of eating, then he will not get diseased. Or if he is diseased, by following the hygienic process, he can get better. So that is the process of knowledge. By having proper knowledge, we can clean our conceptions and we can become healthy. That's in that context that analogy is used.